So I got a bunch of requests to keep telling jokes. I'm not committed to doing it, but I do have one today. 3 boys are in the schoolyard bragging. One boy says, "My dad scribbles a few words on a piece of paper. He calls it a poem, and they give him $50. "That's nothing," the second boy says. "My brother scribbles a few words on a piece of paper. He calls it a song, and they give him $100. "That's nothing," the third boy says. "My uncle scribbles a few words on a piece of paper. He calls it a homily, and it takes 8 people to collect all the money." Now our homily. If we're not careful today, we'll pass over a detail that feels very inconsequential from our first reading. And that detail, I believe, is the hinge on all the actions today. So Peter is arrested in Jerusalem. He's arrested because King Herod had James, the brother of John, killed, and he saw that it was pleasing to the Jewish mob. In a sense, Herod is holding his finger up in the wind to see which way the wind is blowing. He's not leading, he's being swayed by a mob. Clearly, Peter's arrest is executed by a popular vote. I don't think it's any surprise that this imprisonment will lead to a sham of a trial and most likely Peter's future death. But here's the remarkable detail, I believe. It says it was Passover. They delayed Peter's trial because it was Passover, specifically the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And why is that remarkable? Well, we know the Feast of Unleavened Bread is called such because the Israelites were freed from Egypt, and they were freed in a hurry, and their bread could not rise. So hence, the Feast of Unleavened Bread celebrates their liberation from slavery. They are liberated from slavery while Peter is held in prison, awaiting probably his death. The irony is astounding. Now let's move to Paul before we tie it for our own lives. In our second reading from Timothy, at the end of Paul's life, facing his own death, Paul says, "I am being poured out like a libation." Paul is saying that his life has been a life of quenching the thirst of anyone who will listen to him about the awesomeness of God. Paul has nothing left to give. He's being poured out. He says, "I have competed well. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. From now on, a crown of righteousness awaits me." The picture we are receiving is of a man who, despite great accomplishments, understands himself to be subject to the Lord. He is being poured out. Paul strives to keep the faith and offer all that he has and all that he is back to God, while God returns graces to him in abundance. When we freely give ourselves over in service to God, God's graces pours out to us in abundance to help us achieve the ultimate end for which every one of us are created, to give praise and glory to God. Now back to St. Peter. The delay for the Feast of the Unleavened Bread is more than simply a religious delay, I believe. It's a divine turning point. Think of all that happened for Peter during the delay. Soldiers carried him to prison. An angel appeared. He was double locked. The shackles fell away. None of the soldiers woke up, 16 of them, and he's set free. It's a divine turning point in his life. It's God's grace flowing back to him. This same feast that commemorates Israel's liberation from slavery becomes, in Peter's story, a symbol of how God uses even delays and detours to bring about his grace. What looked like confinement, the end of his life, was really simply a launch pad for Peter's greatest mission, to proclaim the gospel at the heart of the Jewish empire. Sometimes in our life, we find ourselves in moments that feel like everything is on pause. Circumstances that we don't control or can't control. Doors that seem shut. But in the hands of God, those moments can become hinge points for us, turning points, holy delays that open the way to us for something greater. So what has occurred in our lives that we don't yet understand? Where we feel imprisoned, bound, lost? Is it possible? Is it possible that these moments are in fact holy moments for us too? Moments where God's grace will pour out for us. God walks with us. Simply take his hand and trust.